So we're gonna start using the pyro to light up our shot. And to do that, we'll be using a pyro VDB provided by my FX member. And I'm gonna convert that into a polygon. And then after that, applying mesh light on the polygon itself, so that there's a proper real-time light contribution coming from the pyro. So to do that, I will need to bring in a file cache of my... So to do that, I will need to bring in a file cache of my pyro. So in this case, it will be using a VDB.VDB. I'll be only bringing in one frame so that I can show the setup, and then after that you can file cache all your frames and you can work with the geometry, because it will be heavy to calculate every single frame every time it renders. So I'll load from this, and immediately you'll see this. So what this box consists of is 4 channels: density, temperature, heat, and velocity. You can see here. But we don't need all this. We only need heat so that we can convert the shape of heat into a polygon. So to do that, I'll put down a blast node. And I will filter out heat. And I will delete non-selected. So what I will be seeing is heat only. So this is the VDB data of the add heat contribution. And then next I will convert this VDB into a polygon. So you'll see this. Alright, this is because this ISO value is at 0. So if I were to crank it up to 0.1, I'll get this geometry shape. But this geometric shape will be very heavy, considering the fact that I have 3 pyros going on at the same time. And also, it has to calculate this conversion every single frame. So what I'm going to do is use a poly reduce. Right? And see, as it's going to be calculating it. And I don't need to keep all 100% of the geometry. That will defeat the purpose of this poly reduce. So I'll bring it down to 12. And it's gonna calculate. Okay, so this is the poly reduce state of our geometry. And of course, you'll be doing this for all the frames that you have. And you don't want this to constantly load every single frame. So what you want to do is you're gonna put down your file cache. And you're gonna file cache out a bgeo.sc. So in my case, I have already done this previously for all 100 frames of my shot. So I will be loading that. I'm gonna load from this. Okay, so you can see different frames has already been file cached. So I'll put down an out. I'll put down download. Call this out pyro. Okay, and let's just rename this. Okay. Now this icon is a little bit distracting, so I'll just switch it off here. And maybe for the others too. Okay. So now we have this. And next we are going to be creating the mesh light. So you'll come down to your Arno lighting tab. And we're gonna click on mesh. So control click. Okay, move out of the frame. Yeah. Okay, so this is our mesh light. And we're gonna come down to light. And under mesh, we will search for the geometry. Okay, so now you can see it became a light. So I'm going to switch off the geometry mesh first. This is what we see. So we can go with something more reddish for now. And let's just bring this up to 10. Bring our samples up to 2. Yeah, and then we bring down this. Okay, so we switch on the mesh, and let's just do a test render to see what we are getting from this mesh light. Okay, you can see that immediately there's a tint here, which means whatever we've been setting up is contributing to our shot. Okay, so we don't want to see this mesh, right? So we're gonna come down to our render under Arno, and we're going to force phantom our mesh. So we're gonna press this. So what force phantom will do is it will switch off the visibility of your geometry, but acting as though it's there and contributing to your scene. So in this case, by force phantoming our pyro mesh, we will be able to see the light affecting the ship without the mesh being there physically for you to render. If not, it'll be very tough when you want to do your compositing. Okay, so this is working fine. This is working very well. So we'll just rename this. Yeah. Okay. So this is basically it, setting up the pyro lights. So now whenever your pyro moves or change real time, the lights will update real time. Okay, so I have 3 lights, or rather I have 3 pyro, and so I'm gonna set up all 3 now. Okay, so I've set up all 3 lights for all 3 mesh. They are basically the same thing. I have just duplicated them and loaded in my own file cache. So we're just gonna skip to a frame where all 3 is present. Right, okay, so you see all these 3. So I can switch off the visibility of my lights, and all the mesh are there. Yeah. So let's render one frame and see what we get from this. Okay, so the lights are reacting to our shot. It's very obvious here, but what we forgot to do was to force phantom the geometry. So I'm just quickly gonna come in here and select my mesh and just do a quick render again. So now everything is in place. The color isn't that much of a problem because we just have to get the general color or general feel of our pyro. Anything else we can always tweak in compositing, so that's not much of an issue. With that, next we're gonna be building our AOVs so that we can do proper light checking here under this option. Now there's nothing, and also when we do compositing, we can filter out the different lights or different passes and tweak them individually so that we don't have to re-render every single shot every single time. And yeah, so let's move on to doing the AOVs.